then what do we plan a conference championship game for if at the end of the day, both teams are still going to be in what most teams covet, which is the college football playoff? And so I think there's going to be a revisiting of that conversation, because there might be a day and age, Paul. Let's just say, for this sake of this argument, that it is Alabama and LSU playing in the reconfigured SEC championship game. Well, why would either of those coaches risk anything in a now expanded playoff, which now adds more games to the season to ultimately get to a national championship?
No, I think it could. Some of the epic games that we've seen, the Alabama-Georgia games of a couple of years, not the most recent one, but a couple of years ago, are going to be lessened. And not to relitigate, but Kirby Smart's perfect season went down the drain in 21, losing to Alabama, but it almost assured him of winning the championship. Alabama lost a key wide receiver in that game, and Georgia just wasn't quite mentally dialed in, because they knew they had a freebie, and you can't explain it, but it does work that way. And I mean, there's some really rough scenarios. You have two undefeated teams, and they it's possible you could have that. It's possible you could have three or four meetings of a Michigan and Ohio State in regular season. The next week in the championship game, you could get them again. So I mean, there's a lot of factors, but I still think it's worth doing, only because I think it makes, not to use a political phrase here, but I'm using a phrase that matters to college football. By being inclusive, it means more programs are going to participate, and I think that's good.
Yeah, and look, we've seen the conference realignment. The Big 12 is welcoming in a whole new slew of teams, and UCF being one of them, Houston being one of them, BYU being another. There are a lot of programs now that for survival, they had to get into the Power Five to even be considered a playoff caliber team. And we're going to see, it's funny with the realignment and everything that's going on, USC, UCLA, Big Ten next year, SEC, Texas, and Oklahoma. All of this was done pre-playoff expansion era, but ultimately we think it's leading to the same thing, where you've got a group of 60 teams that are going to be playing for the 12 playoff spots. And within the next 2 to 3 years, the sport that we love, we're still going to love it, but it's going to look completely different. Because, Paul, I bet if we looked back even 3 to 4 years, how this game has evolved into what it is now, we're evolving with it because, quite frankly, we have zero choice.
Yeah, and I think the biggest net upside, Matt, is going to be December, which, as you well know, college football just completely cedes to the NFL, and now it's going to be a very dramatic month. It will be chaotic, but we'll see things we've never seen before, as opposed to now we have the championship game, and the next week's the Army-Navy game, which is great. Okay, Heisman, all that, but still, and then we wait for the first round of bowl games, which are not terribly scintillating unless you've got a bet in Vegas.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.